So tell me, what's the root of this MI, and vector beef? Where did you all start from?
It all started in 2009, 10-ish, around that period. You have to look at, there are moments that led up to the events of 2019 where the beef finally got to the zenith. And then you have to also look at the elements of a beef, right? So what are the elements that triggered this beef? You have to look at competition, that's number one. Number two, you have to look at miscommunication. Three, you also have to look at a lack of a mediator between both. While a lot of people have vested interests, people around them have vested interests to be able to make things happen between both of them. Those people were not exactly, it seemed they didn't understand the concept of, they didn't understand how to bring the beef alive. They didn't think it was ever going to get to that level that it got to in 2019. At the end of the day, you have to shout out to Nosa. Nosa made it happen at the end of the day. He got them to sit together and it made both of them have the conversation that led into this moment. We talked about it in the second episode of Hennessy's The Conversation. But at the time, I don't think a lot of people knew it was ever going to get to that level. But at the end of the day, it ended up getting to that level. So what you have to think about is about the competition part. In hip-hop is a contact sport, right? And it's a competitive sport. And in a competition, you have to learn jabs. And hip-hop is a contact sport. Your jabs have to come in metaphors and similes and all that. They have to come in bars and metaphors rather. You have to look at how MI Abaga and Vector got here. First things first, MI is sort of the outsider. He grew up in Plateau State, it's a Taraba indigenous. He went to Coolidge College in the US. Vector is a Lagos boy, grew up in Lafayette. People knew him in Lagos. He was the homeboy, he was the champion. In that generation, as that generation was coming up, even though we had that OD, we had Terry the Rap Man, some other people who were coming up at the time, there was something around Emma and Vector because they had way more mainstream appeal than the rest of the cats in that generation. They commanded loyalty from the section of the ministry, unlike most of the other people in that generation. And they were both rapping in English. They were both attractive young men. People liked them. Great smile. They smile a lot. Personality-wise, they are quite similar. People just like them for whatever reason. You don't know. And there's this thing that they do, that's why they have strong stand bases. In Nigerian hip-hop today, if you're looking at rappers with strong stand bases, you have to look at Vector and MI. Olamide is a rapper, but you have to look at what Olamide is. Olamide really hip-hop? Like a lot of people would want to say hip-hop. He is. But the elitists will not necessarily say he is. So let's say hip-hop people that hip-hop stamp. Who are the people that have strong stand bases? That's Vector and MI. It's not a coincidence that the two of these guys came from the same generation. They are the same guys that everybody were looking up to at the time. And for whatever funny reason, since over the past 12 years, you have to look at these guys are still here. They might not be the object of mainstream affection anymore, but they are still here. 12 years later, Hennessy, the conversation is around MI Abaga and Vector. It's amazing. It's interesting. The miscommunication part came up. So before we are done with the competition part, the role of fans in part of that competition is also necessary. There's a way. So Kendrick and Big Sean, over the past 20 years, let's go there first. Over the past 20 years in hip-hop generally, in hip-hop culture, there's something as competition, fan-inspired competition, fan-inspired beef. Fans will pit two people against each other, either intentionally or unintentionally. And they will make sure these two people find a way to think whatever they are saying in the respective songs is about the other person. It's a big problem. Big Sean and Kendrick Lamar, for example, they had to have a conversation. On Big Sean's last album, he said they had to have a conversation with Kendrick after Nipsey also died. Because there was no beef. But somehow, there was tension between the both of them. Ever since the controversy, infamously famous controversy. So, fans would say this, and you go on YouTube, you see analysis. This person is saying this about that person. That person is saying this about that person. Before you know it, everybody's believing it. But then there were also moments in their complex relationship where you had 2009. Vector releases his first single titled Kilode from his debut album titled State of Surprise. The song featured in the song. It was track 6 on State of Surprise. He said, Kilode, why ask him what the hell do you want from me? We're asking if I could kill MI. He's a cool kid. We share ties. MI took the kid part as an offense. Why are you calling me a kid? Even though I'm like 4 years older than you or things like that, why are you calling me a kid? But then immediately after he said, he's a cool kid, he said, we share ties. That means you are similar in some way. But at the time, the fact that you are competitors in the same space would mean that you are not going to take that with the mind that someone else is going to take it. 2011, Ice drops Oleku. Vector does a remix for it because he was in late age codes out. House, recipe age code by the way. And he records the version of Oleku. The version blows up. Chocolate City has problems with it. Things started spiraling out of control from that. Then you had the Hennessy moments where Vector won lyricist on Drew and he called Emma a short man. Emma had left the event, but he heard it after. Emma took offense to that. Then in around the same time, 2016, Emma dropped Illegal Music 3, right? On Illegal Music 3, there's a track there titled Not Just Okay Savage. On Not Just Okay Savage, Emma was addressing hip-hop lists created by NotJustOK.com. And at the same time, on the song, he rapped, to the head is what's up, what's up, then again, what's up. He was saying, but that lyricist award, man, we got to talk. So he was saying that he doesn't deserve the plaque, but he's saying that a lot of people who are keeping it real in Nigerian hip-hop were not getting the deserved recognition for lyricist of the road category. Guess who won lyricist of the road that year? Vector. Vector took an offense to that. So a lot of things over the years, if they had sat down to have conversations, they would have found a way to squash some of these things. One of the conversations around the two of them for a long time was that they didn't have a song together. Even though they had been on different songs together. I know Send You Remix, for example, Vector goes and raps, I Stay Grounded Like MI, right? They were on that song together, but the song doesn't belong to either of them, it belongs to Suspects. They have been on different songs like that. But in fact, even on the Loose Talk episode, the famous Loose Talk episode, greatest episode you have ever done in your life, you ever did in your life. Osage asked Emma that why didn't he done why doesn't he have a song with Vector? Emma give an entire explanation. Later, the open letter moment then happened. Where a convention happened, Vector says, oh, I tried to get you on Oleku remix, I tried to do this, Emma writes an open letter and all that. It had been building. And that was how we got to this level. And it's been amazing actually, to be honest.
Why did the beef now peaked in 2019? Like, what really led to that?
On Analysis the Conversation, MI said that he came into 2019 saying, I just want to settle this. I'm done with it. Whichever level you want to take this to, I'm going to take it there with you. So that was why we saw. That was his New Year resolution. Shout out to MI. I wonder what your New Year resolution for 2020 was. What was when you got music? So on the other companies, on the other brands, ciphers, took shots at Vector. It's AQ lose. Everybody took shots at Vector. Blaqbonez didn't take shots at Vector. He didn't take shots at Vector, obviously. But then on Hennessy ciphers 2019. Vector also took shots. We know the song They Hammer You Now, this your summer days, or things like that. A lot of subs here and there. So the fact is that a lot of people keep saying that why did they have to do it? It was bound to happen. It was either they were going to sit down and have a conversation, or they were going to address each other in direct diss songs. Remember the AK moments when AK had the xenophobia moments with Nigeria when Burna Boy dissed MI because of AK. Vector came out at the time and they had this small back and forth. And during the Hennessy ciphers in 2019, MI says the rappers were not getting paid, whereas they were getting paid. We discovered now that the rappers were actually paid on 2019. MI was operating on the old system at the time. Even whatever, it doesn't even matter. What MI was operating on, it was the wrong notion in 2019 that rappers were not paid. Rappers were actually paid. So a lot of the
Hennessy
things
cypher.
for the Hennessy ciphers in 2019. So a lot of the conversations around the time were sort of a necessity. These songs were necessary, basically. That's what it is.
Who do you think won the beef?
Who won the beef? Vector won the beef.
The better record?
The better record is the Viper. But here's the thing. A lot of people will tell you that stand culture is a problem. Because stand culture it saps the fairness out of conversations. And why? Because people have loyalty to someone. They are drawn to certain artists. They project their lives, they bounce their lives, they ricochet their lives off those artists. So they can't see they can't think logically about whatever the rapper has done right or wrong. Whatever the rapper or the artist does, it is right. So an MIF stand is not going to tell you, most of them are not going to tell you that MI lost the beef. Even if they admit that MI lost the beef, they're not going to admit that he lost the beef on the point of the music. And that's wrong. He lost the beef on the point of the music. Why? The Viper is the song. In the terms of quality of music, the Viper is the music that you want to listen to. But in terms of a diss song, what a diss song. The Viper by MI Bagger is musically, in terms of musicality and the bars, concepts, what you are listening to, the way the progression of the music was going, the way it was going by Psalms 1 and all these other further things, the way he portrayed himself and all this, it was amazing. But in terms of a diss song doesn't have anything to do with quality. A diss song is about the amount of dirt you're able to spin up about the other guy and how you're able to make it stick. The day the Judas Zerat dropped by Vector, people thought, oh, Judas Zerat is not a good song. They were still judging it on the basis of the song. No, you can't judge this on the basis of the song. You have to judge. By the end of the day, Billy was tweeting, Victoria Kimani was tweeting, a lot of people were tweeting. Emma Abaga, even Emma, he doesn't necessarily agree that he lost the beef, but he appreciates the strategy. That's what he says. He said, I appreciate the strategy. From a strategy point of view, I appreciate it. And you have to. Because a lot of people are going to tell you that, oh, it was because Vector leaked the DMs. No, the beef was lost before Vector leaked the DMs.
Would it have made any difference if Emma had applied to Judas Zerat?
We never know, to be honest. We would never know. I guess we would never know. But to be honest, I think it would have been bad. Like, whatever Emma was going to come with after Judas Zerat, Emma would have known that, man, it must have a lot of debt. According to him, he said some of the people that he played it for, when they heard it, they were like, yeah, don't release this thing. So it's kind of very similar to Drake's unreleased reply to Pusha T. That Jay Prince came on the Breakfast Club and said, man, we don't want to drop this because they don't want the beef to get out of her. They don't want to escalate. And one thing that we don't need in music, keep the beef on the point of the music. Keep it there. Don't take it out. We don't need physical battles in the streets. So I don't know. It's certainly would have made things interesting though.
It's always important in explaining hip-hop. It's beef. People talk about beef, but is it really important? Because there's an argument to say that it doesn't give any. People tell you that it doesn't pay anybody. So why do they do?
In reaction to beef, right? There are three types of people. One, the hip hop lovers who understand the culture. One, the repentant, the lovers who are the evolving hip hop lovers who are basically getting out of the tenets of hip hop culture. And three, the average guy who doesn't care. Hip hop is a niche culture, right? In Nigeria, hip hop is very, very niche. People who get it are very, very, they're a small fraction. They're a very small demography. So you have to look at it from the perspective of the voices of the hip hop lovers who necessarily understand what beef is about, who understand that it's about competition and it's about honor and it's about upholding the hip hop culture. They are very small. Their voices are kind of reduced to background noise. But the guys in the middle, the guys who are repenting, who are evolving hip hop lovers, they will tell you that it doesn't make sense that you are rapping over songs. What does it mean? If you want to fight. Why are you going at each other over songs? They don't get it. But those people also don't understand that beef in music is as fundamental to music as anything. It's not even just a rap thing alone. From time immemorial in Nigerian music, we have seen rap artists go at each other. Elemure versus whoever. Fuji artists going at each other. Shina Peters going at somebody else. You will see even currently, Burna Boy and Davido are going at each other. It's commonplace. It's what it is. But they only have a problem when it's a hip hop thing. You are never able to process it. They enjoy it when it's not hip hop. But when it's hip hop, you have a problem. Yeah. But even the people that have a problem generally, you can't have a problem with a lot of things because people are human beings. So why do people address each other in these songs? It's because you are making music, you are expressing your state of mind. Especially when someone has already made a statement to you in another song, you want to make a song and vent all of that anger. It's not necessarily about making a diss song. If you are Drake, maybe, that made it back-to-back and put it in the clubs and got the Grammy nomination of it, a diss song to Meek Mill. If you're Davido, maybe, but most people just want to put it out there and vent and take it off their minds. So is beef important to music? You can't take it out. You can't take it out. It's just what it is.
From a brand perspective, how is it that Hennessy was the one that made this MI and Vector come together?
It was sort of inevitable. You know why? Because hip-hop culture and Hennessy in Nigeria are sort of intertwined. You can't separate them. Look at it this way. From time immemorial, you have to think about Rakim, you have to think about Nas, you have to think about even Ice Prince at the dawn of the golden year of Nigerian hip-hop, which was 2010. Ice Prince and Skills participated in a Hennessy event that launched both of their careers. Emma Abaga used to be on Hennessy events. Now he's back on Hennessy events. I was speaking with an OG recently, and he was saying that when he watched the first two episodes of the conversation, and he said, I really commend Hennessy. And I would like to call his name, but I don't think he would want me to call his name. He says, Nigeria doesn't really have a veritable hip-hop documentary. This is the closest thing we have to it. And in terms of posterity, when you're looking back at Hennessy, you are going to credit them for this moment. So is it necessary? What do I feel about the fact that Hennessy gave Emma Baga and Vector the platform to do this? I think it was sort of inevitable.
How did Emma and Vector even agree to this?
It was sort of interesting. I think we're going to do an article about that. People should be looking for that. Drops soon. You guys will be able to see. You'll be able to see it before this episode drops. Very simple. Shout out to Nosa Omoregbe, talent manager. Used to manage Jamie Crane. A lot of people know him in the industry. He was the one before the events of the beef plateaued between the events of the Podge and the Viper. Nosa was in the picture, trying to mediate between the both of them. And at the end of the day, when it came down to it, even throughout 2019, right? Emma was saying he wanted to work with Hennessy, he wanted to get the job at Hennessy, he wanted to work with Hennessy, one way or the other. And Nosa was like, look, let's make this thing work. So he found a way to get the two of them in a room and had a conversation.
Well, what do you think the impact would be for the brand, or even for like the impact in general? Do you think it's to be worth it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Do you know why? Because in 2019, right, the other brand that MI was making ciphers for at the time was basically trying to. It was a brand thing. It was a brand equity thing. It was a move. Now you have the two guys on one platform. It doesn't get bigger than that. And at the same time, who was that brand trying to displace in the hip hop game? Hennessy. What did Hennessy do? Came back
strong. What's the future of rap beef now like in Nigerian music generally? Do you think people will start coining in a way, to even make money from it in terms of
people have been doing that. Yeah. That's a very good one. That's a very good perspective actually. People are going to start put brands behind conversations to make them bigger. Yeah. That's interesting. Shout out to Hennessy, by the way. Yeah. That's true. But I think more than anything, I think the future of beef in this country the future of hip-hop beef would be more. I think a lot of people there wouldn't be a lot of hip-hop beef going forward. I don't see it. It would take something. You have to look at it this way. Who are the rappers that can beef in current Nigerian hip-hop and shake the table and shake everything up? Like hip-hop, people that the Nigerian hip-hop community, hip-hop heads will endorse. Who are they? Nobody. The only rappers who can beef in this country right now and people are going to listen to are the mainstream guys. The guys who the hip hop heads don't want to accept. As the Naira Marleys, as the Zlatans, that's the Olamides, that's the Rem. Everybody. Those are the guys that can beef anybody. Okay, maybe AQ. If AQ were to go at somebody, yeah, I guess people would pay attention. The future of beef is basically that. I think it's not as much about what the future of beef is. It's the kind of beef that will have impact. We don't have a lot of people who can go on beef, who can have beef and have the sort of impact that an Emma and Vector have been able to generate. Not a lot of people can even do a source kid that they got one. Yeah. Not a lot of people, basically.
Does it also, cite to the fact that Nigeria don't really have like high caliber,
rappers,
hip hop and dub?
Yeah, I think so.
What I mean high caliber, I mean like mainstream.
Yes.
Mainstream pedigree.
Yeah, it is actually. That's what I was trying to state at the time. It's Nigerian hip hop. Like there was a question I was asked during Hennessy's conversation that why is it that these two guys have been here for this long and they are still the ones leading conversations? It's more than anything, even though there are a lot of quality rappers in this country, a lot of them. It also coincides with how Nigeria is more a pop market than a hip hop market. 2010 was the golden generation of Nigerian hip hop. A lot of quality albums dropped that year that had sub-mainstream appeal. But these days, you have to look at, it's not exactly we wrote an article recently about how the female representation in Nigerian hip hop had dried up. And why is that? Because hip hop, the male representation in Nigerian hip hop self, it doesn't have as much of an appeal, of a mainstream appeal as it used to. Yeah. Because of what? Because of the emergence of contemporary Nigerian pop music. Mm. So it's a slight problem. It's not as much about the rappers. It's as much about where hip hop stands currently.
What does it do with hip hop and the Hennessy?
It's a lifestyle thing.
Do you think it's been beneficial to them, especially in Nigeria?
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't say they are. I think Hennessy might be doing more for hip hop than hip hop is doing for Hennessy. Yeah. I think so, but I don't think Hennessy cares. I don't think Hennessy cares because Hennessy is doing it from a passion perspective. I think Hennessy has a passion for Nigerian hip hop. Hennessy, it's not that I think, it's a fact. Year on year, money goes out there, ciphers, everything. The only reason you are going to do that in a competition that is in a soundscape that is heavily dictated by pop music is because you have a passion for it. You love it. You want it to mean something. You want the representation to mean something. When Nigerian hip hop makes a run back to its golden years or its golden generation once again, you have to, Hennessy's name is going to be written in the sands of time. Basically, that's what it is.
What does this MI and Vector beef rank among hip hop beefs in Nigeria?
Well, that's a big question. What are the greatest beef?
Rugged Man Mode 9.
Vector AQ. Yeah. Reminisce and Vector/AQ.
No, sorry. Reminisce and AQ.
Reminisce and Vector/AQ. Reminisce and AQ.
Reminisce and Vector.
No, Reminisce and Vector. Yeah. Reminisce and Vector/AQ.
Yeah. So it was an AQ.
Yeah, it was an AQ. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not a lot. We've had more songs. I've gotten a Source Kid, yes. It's going to rank really high. It's going to rank really high. Rank really. No, Rugged Man versus the entire industry. Actually, Rugged Man versus everybody. Yeah. That was what it was. Shout out to everybody, but that was a record. Yeah. I think it's going to rank really high. But the thing is this: why this beef might seem like it's bigger than a lot of other types of beef that we've seen in the past is because of the internet. Social media sort of played aggregator to this. So we were able to measure the impact and the types of conversation it was able to push. We were able to measure the immersion of that beef and how it was able to affect the Nigerian culture. We were able to measure the trends and the conversations around it. We were able to measure a lot of things around it. So I really think that it's going to rank really high. Even though social media helped us measure it, it's a big one. It's a really big one. It's It's a really big one. Maybe only Rugged Man and Mode 9 can stand on his dead. Maybe only. Yeah. And that's facts only.